in the heart of the forest, there stood a castle that had been abandoned for centuries. Its towering walls were crumbling, and the trees had grown up around it, shrouding it in darkness. But despite its ruined state, the castle still stood, and its presence could be felt for miles around. For years, locals had whispered stories about the castle. They told of strange noises that could be heard coming from within its walls, of shadows that moved when no one was there, and of an eerie sense of foreboding that seemed to emanate from its very foundations. But despite these warnings, a group of adventurous adults decided to explore the castle. They were a group of thrill-seekers, eager for the rush of adrenaline that came with exploring a place so steeped in history and mystery. As they made their way through the forest, the air grew colder and the trees grew thicker. The castle loomed ahead of them, a dark silhouette against the moonlit sky. As they approached, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The group cautiously made their way across the drawbridge and into the castle's main hall. The room was filled with dust and cobwebs, and the air was thick with the smell of decay. But despite its dilapidated state, the castle still held a sense of grandeur. As they made their way deeper into the castle, the group began to hear strange noises. Footsteps echoed through the halls, and voices whispered in the darkness. They tried to brush it off as their imagination, but they couldn't deny the unease that was beginning to settle in their stomachs. Suddenly, one of the group members disappeared. They searched high and low, calling out her name, but she was nowhere to be found. As they continued on, more members of the group began to vanish, until only 2 were left. The 2 remaining members of the group stumbled upon a secret room deep within the castle's depths. It was a room that had been sealed for centuries, and inside they found a book bound in human skin. The pages were filled with ancient symbols and incantations, and as they read through the text, they realized that they had stumbled upon something dark and dangerous. As they tried to leave the room, they heard the sound of footsteps approaching. They tried to run, but the door wouldn't budge. The footsteps grew louder and closer, and soon they found themselves face to face with a figure clad in a hooded cloak. The figure beckoned them to follow, leading them through twisting passages and secret tunnels. The air grew colder, and the darkness grew deeper. The figure didn't speak, but the 2 remaining members of the group could feel its gaze upon them, cold and unyielding. Finally, they emerged into a vast chamber filled with darkness. In the center of the room, there stood a figure so terrible and so ancient that the 2 remaining members of the group could barely comprehend its existence. It was a being of pure malevolence, a creature born of darkness and despair. The figure turned its gaze upon the 2 remaining members of the group, and they knew that their time had come. They tried to run, but their legs wouldn't move. They tried to scream, but their throats were constricted. And as the figure drew closer, they knew that they were lost. The castle stood silent once again, as it had for centuries. The group of adventurers were never seen again, and the stories of the castle's malevolent presence only grew in the years that followed. And although many have tried to explore the castle since that fateful night, none have returned.